Okay, so this one is a quickie. I've been asked on Discord how to bring the height map PNG that we've used with the ground.lua Vox script into Blender to use it with the Vox tool instead. So I'm just quickly gonna show you how I do it. I'm gonna use Photoshop, and of course I'm going to use Blender. You should be able to do this in whatever software programs you're using, but this is what I have and this is what I use, so this is what I show you. The first thing I'm going to do is to open the height map that we used for the Fruström level. Okay, so there we go. And we can see that it has a lot of color information in the red, in the green, and in the blue channels. And probably yours do as well if you've added like concrete and grass and stuff to your height maps, and not just height information. But we are only interested in the information from the red channel because that's the height information. So the first thing I'm going to do is to remove this padlock here to unlock the layer, and then I double click it and I uncheck the green and blue color channels here. So now we only have the red channel. Then I'm adding a black and white adjustment layer, and I'm setting the reds to 100 and all the other colors to 0. So here's our grayscale representation of the height information from the height map image. Now I'm going to save this as a PNG. Height map gray, like that. And I'm switching over to Blender. And here we are in a brand new Blender project. I'll show you up here in the preferences that there's a add-on that I'm using that you might have wonder how I do things if you don't have it enabled. It's this mesh loop tools add-on, and it's actually it's actually included in Blender by default, but it's not enabled. So just search for loop tools in the add-ons and enable it. Okay, so I'm going to select all and delete all. Then I'm adding a plane like that. And I can go back to the height map image in Photoshop and check the image size. It's 4000 by 1500, meaning it's 400 by 150 meters. So I go back to Blender, I press N to unfold this tab here on the side, N as in night time, and then I write 400 meters there and 150 meters in that direction. And now you can see that my scale is all messed up. So I press Ctrl A and I apply scale. That's great. Then I go into this modifier tab and I add a subdivision surface. I set it to simple and I set it to, let's try 8 in the viewport. I can go in here, viewport display, show wireframe, all edges. I go back here, maybe 10. That's about 1,000,000 vertices. Let's do it on 9. 263,000 vertices. That's something we can work with, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to remove. I have this wireframe button, this one, assigned to a hotkey. So if you see this happening, me turning on or off the mesh overlay, you know what's happening. We go back to the modifiers. We add another modifier, displace modifier, and we make a new texture for the displacement. Click this button to go to the texture settings, open, and load a height map. We can see that this is all whacked up. We go back to the modifiers, and for the coordinates for the displacement we select UV, and here we can see our Fruström level starting to take shape. We change the mid level to 0, and we set this strength value to 25.5, and tada! There you have Fruström in Blender. You can right click and do shade smooth. That's nice. I think this is also from some add-on I have enabled, so you can just use. So first I apply the subdivisions like that, and then I apply the displacement, and now if we go into edit mode, you can see that we actually have this mesh to work with in Blender. We're gonna do one more thing while we are in edit mode. I make sure I'm in phase selection mode. Alt A to deselect everything, A to select everything. And with all the faces selected, I go to select, loops, and this functionality I think comes from the Loop Tools add-on. Select boundary loop. So now I have this edge running around the whole mesh. I press E for extrude and C to lock the extrusion to the C axis, and I pull down like that. And then I press S for scale and C to lock the scaling to the Z axis, and I type 0 like that. And with that boundary still selected, I press no, I was about to create a face. I don't create a face. What I do, I go to face up here, and I do a grid fill, filling that area between that hole in the boundary nicely with a nice grid. Okay. Now you can see that we have some like ugly edges here. See if we can smooth that out. So I click or I type Control plus to extend the selection. And now I do another select loops, boundary loop. And now I have this loop here selected. I turn on proportional editing, and then I go to the smooth tool. I just grab this and drag it a bit to the side and let go, because we're going to do the numbers in this panel instead. 0.33 is that's reasonable, and maybe 10 iterations of smoothing. It takes a little while. And there we go. Now this looks a lot better. So I go back to object mode, and from here I can go to, for example, sculpt mode, and I can, if there are more problematic areas, but it looks good, smooth it out a bit. Or in sculpt mode I use F to change the size of the brush, and Shift F to affect the strength of the brush. So now I'm smoothing with a very low strength. I undo that and compare it to smoothing with a very strong or very high strength. Yeah. Anyway, that's how you can get your height map terrain that you used with the ground.lua vox script into Blender. See you next time.